Today this are Simon, Brandon, Chelsea, Vincent, and me, Fabian, want to take you on a journey through our book, The Struggle for Soul of Ben & Jerry's, or the Ice Cream Social, The Struggle for the Soul of Ben & Jerry's. And we would like to give you an impression on, the power and influence Ben & Jerry's has. If you're wondering why we look like this, so this is the normal way Ben & Jerry's dress, and also for business meetings. Every one of you sitting in this room has certain goals in life and the ability to change the world. But why do we often hesitate or not get started? This book is about two guys who boldly start their own ice cream business with a belief that businesses are the most powerful institutions in the world and they could become the most powerful forces for social change. Ben & Jerry's has not only an impact business-wise by selling one of the most famous premium ice cream brands, but also in a wide range of social aspects. So they really changed the world and opened new perspectives on topics like fair trade, civil union, and genetically modified organisms labeling legislation. And behind all its effort, there's one big idea called linked prosperity. So it says that as the company prospered, it says that all its employees, customers, and also suppliers should prosper as well, because they contributed to their success. They were making progress in all kinds of reducing their environmental impact and increasing their sustainability in all parts of their operation. And from reducing nitrogen and the phosphorus output at its dairy farms to eliminating bleached paperboard in its containers. So in addition to that, also Ben & Jerry's paid their employees a living wage that was well above the market range. And they were trying to lead with progressive values in all phases of their business. So, but Chelsea, what makes this company really unique?
Thank you, Fabian. Yes, Ben & Jerry's is truly a unique company. I want to highlight what it is that makes this company unlike any other. First, Ben & Jerry's became a certified benefit corporation in 2012. This means that the company creates a general benefit for society while providing returns to its shareholders. Second, the company's founders are remarkable themselves and have a unique partnership. Jerry really was the yin to Ben's yang. They both wanted to move far away from the traditional business model, which is all about profits, profits, profits. Instead, they wanted to maximize social responsibility. They demanded that as sales increase, the company's investment in its social mission must also increase. And third, the company started the Ben & Jerry's Foundation in 1985. Each year, 7.5% of pre-tax profits are given to this foundation. And the greatest part about this is that Ben & Jerry's employees decide what happens with this money at the foundation. They decide what social projects they want to fund. Now that's a pretty great way to get employees at all levels of the foundation excited about social change. Brenton, I'm curious, how do power and influence play a part in this?
So one of the first things we talked about with power was the paradox of power. So the very values that get you into power in the first place, you lose those traits once you get into power. So traits like honesty and humility and respect. And the cure for this paradox of power is transparency. And this is why I believe that the paradox of power isn't present at Ben & Jerry's. To give an example, there was a story about a journalist wanted to put together a top 100 companies to work for list, and they wanted to put Ben & Jerry's on the list. So Ben & Jerry's, the board of Ben & Jerry's found out about this, and they said, don't put us on that list. We don't think it's fair to our employees to be on that list. The employees are overworked, they're getting hurt in our factories, they're overtired, they think that we're a bunch of idiots. So if we're being honest, we don't want to be on that list. Another concept that we talked about was empowerment and how empowerment can lead to increased job satisfaction, increased performance, and increased organizational commitment. And empowerment was also ingrained in the Ben & Jerry's culture. The board would encourage employees to come up with solutions to their own problems. So a good example of this is an employee noticed that the social mission is such an important part of Ben & Jerry's, but there's no full-time employees at Ben & Jerry's that are dedicated to the social mission. So that employee was then appointed the director of social mission and charged with advancing the social mission throughout the years. And she actually did a very good job. She came up with ideas like social auditing and social metrics to measure their performance. But I think both Ben and Jerry would agree with me that influence is more important than power. And why I say that is the business wasn't created to gain power. It wasn't even really created to be a business. It was more about showing that business can be done a certain way and hoping to influence other businesses to follow their lead and help them change the world. And one of the examples that we've heard of already about influence is the acquisition of Ben & Jerry's by Unilever. Ben & Jerry's at first became a little bit more like Unilever, but in the end, the influence of Ben & Jerry's really showed as Unilever became more like Ben & Jerry's. At the start, employees of Unilever were kind of skeptical about the whole link prosperity, not putting profits first, and three-part social mission. But in the end, they were putting their jobs on the line to defend it. And as we've heard about in sustainability class, Unilever is actually one of the leading companies in the sustainability movement now. So Sam, why don't you tell us about some of the challenges that Ben & Jerry faced?
The challenges Ben & Jerry's has faced and continues to face is being open to media scrutiny. Their smallest of error regarding their social values damages the brand name, especially because they're seen as the poster child for socially responsible businesses. From the start, there have always been hundreds of press clippings written about Ben & Jerry's, and if their decisions did not align with their social values, the clippings would reflect that. They would receive negative responses when they were seen contradicting their values. An example of this is when Ben & Jerry's hired La Soul Bakery to supply apple pies for their new pie-flavored yogurt. La Soul employed recovering addicts, and Ben & Jerry's thought this would be a great way to continue their social mission. Unfortunately, the flavor did not do so well, and so Ben & Jerry's stopped buying it from them. This left La Soul in debt, and the director of La Soul ended up suing them. Although they settled out of court, this tarnished the company's image because instead of helping the addicts and the bakery, they ended up leaving the addicts jobless and the bakery in debt. They did learn a lesson that they cannot cut off communication with these organizations until they teach them to stand on their own. Vincent, do you have any advice for this challenge?
Yes, my advice for this challenge is transparency. As a poster child for social movement, any misstep opens the company to scrutiny, so they have to learn from their own mistakes. And with this realization, Ben & Jerry's have hired someone who specifically to take care of their social missions and to find ways to improve it by always being transparent. They have beliefs in transparency. It allows them to gain a devoted customer base, and like people trust they're making great ice cream. So this allows the public to engage in their social missions and reduces the power of media to give a misleading impression of Ben & Jerry's. Also, transparency allows them to set goals without the fear of failure because their goals and missions are public, so they're not free anything.
Another challenge Ben & Jerry's has to overcome is to avoid being absorbed by Unilever's corporate culture and to lose their unique values and ways of thinking. Although they do have a separate board that makes decisions regarding Ben & Jerry's, it continues to be a challenge for them to stay true to their values while being a part of this huge multinational corporation that does not share all their values and passion for social causes. What about this challenge?
And for this challenge, there are 3 pieces of advice for this challenge. First, hiring people with same value as a company because it will provide employees who are positive and passionate. And second, being authentic. It allows the company to begin with a social mission to provide ice cream because it made them happy. So staying true to these rules is important for their success. And lastly, set goals to always improve. It allows their employees and customers to interested and stay true to their 3-part missions and introduce new flavors that their customers are passionate about is one way of doing that. Hey Chelsea, how else has the company committed to its values?
Yes, I believe there is one key moment in history when Ben & Jerry's truly started to develop clear values as a company. Ben once said, "You know what business does. It's harmful to the environment. It's harmful to its employees." A local restaurant owner responded, "If there's something you don't like about business, why don't you just do it differently?" I really think this aha moment allowed Ben to make his values mean something. Make business an outlet for the values you believe in. In relation to this, in the second week of classes, we read the article, Make Your Values Mean Something. I now have a better understanding as to just how difficult it is to implement the article's recommendations. Although difficult, Ben & Jerry's has done a really great job. 1, the company does not mistake its core values as aspirational values. The core values are actively pursued and not looked at as targets for the future. 2, by repeatedly publishing corporate responsibility reports each year, the company is as aggressively authentic as it can be. 3, the company owns this process, from management to lower level employees. All levels are educated and passionate about the company's social mission. And 4, core values are weaved into everything. After all, this is what the company's goal of linked prosperity is all about. Fabian, what are your final thoughts?
So we think this book is not all about the company, the company Ben & Jerry's, and also not the issues they faced, and also not about that they were sold to Unilever. It's more than that. The company was founded by 2 exceptional guys who had a dream with deeply grassrooted values, and they were trying to change the world. And social responsibility is the key word. And they are a great example how to change the world with progressive values and another way of doing business. They taught a whole generation that there is a caring way of doing business, and they were a role model and the first mover who inspired numerous companies to implement a strategy based on social responsibility. Thank you very much.
If you guys were Ben & Jerry's, would you have sold to Unilever?
I think they didn't really have a choice because it kind of goes back to like power and influence. Like they had to give up some of their power when they sold to Unilever, but they kind of, if they wanted to keep their influence over the world, then they wanted to, like they wouldn't have been a company anymore if they didn't sell to Unilever. So if they wanted to keep their influence, they had to be sold to Unilever.
Was there anything in the book that you felt that particularly resonated with you?
Personally, I really liked the beginning of the book when they talked about how they opened a gas station as their first scoop shop, and how they would sleep in the store as they were renovating it to open it as a scoop shop. I thought that was really neat to hear about the very beginning of the company.
Did Ben & Jerry have any college education?
No.
Didn't one of them drop out like in the second or 2 years?
Not a huge amount. They really were kind of hippies, It almost seemed like it was an accident that the business got that big. But
What was the story with the salaries? Didn't one of the groups say that they were paid under, and then you said they were paid more than market value?
well, there's 2 different things. There's the 5-to-1 salary ratio, which they had early on, and then there was the living wage. They calculated the living wage in Vermont, and they paid their employees up, which was much higher than market value. So it went from 5-to-1, but then that was they couldn't sustain that, so they went to living wage.
Thank you very much.